Boom, I'm in the room. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Welcome wherever you're listening. Reason you're here is because there's nothing on the telly. And I'm coming to you live from the old Heale Manor. And I'm your host, Lord Heale. Now, this show's all about mental health, mental well-being, and taking the stigma out of it. Now, this evening I've got a guest coming on, and we're going to look at solving anxiety permanently. So without too much further ado, I'm going to bring him in and we're going to start a conversation. So, Daniel, welcome.
It's a virtual party here in Heale Manor.
Well, absolutely. So that's what it's all about. It's all about helping people along the way.
It
So,
is.
Daniel, if you can tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into what you're doing, and and take it from there. So, the platform's yours.
Well, thank you. I like to talk about myself. However, your audience doesn't really care about me that much. What they care about is how can I help them, which is really what I care about. So, you know, I want to tell your listeners what I want to talk about because their time is very valuable and I want to earn their time. And also, obviously, they know a lot about anxiety already and mental health already. Why listen to me? Why give me more of your time talking about this topic that you already know a lot about? And so, if you're listening, wherever you are, if you're outside, if you're on the couch, if you're in a snuggie, if you're at the gym, if you're on a unicorn, wherever you are, if you have anxiety or know someone that does, you're going to hear something in the next 45 minutes or so that, at the very least, is going to make you say, I cannot believe nobody told me this sooner. It would have been so helpful. But also, I'm going to give you an understanding of anxiety so that you can solve this permanently. Now, why does that matter? Because if you have anxiety or you know someone that does, you know how horrible it is. It's not just the anxiety that's horrible. It robs you of joy. You can't focus. You have doubt. You can't do what you love. You can't show up for the people that you care about. But there's something that makes anxiety even worse. It did for me. And tell me if this sounds familiar to you. You not only have anxiety, but then you went and you tried to get help for it. You went to therapists and psychologists and doctors, maybe some spiritual teachers, religious teachers, some books, some videos. And it helped a bit, but primarily what you probably found is it didn't solve it. It just managed it, which is better than nothing. But the only problem is one teeny weeny problem, which is you still have anxiety. And so it's still following you around, robbing you of joy and purpose and meaning. And what makes it even worse is you've paid people. You've paid people to not solve it, just to manage it, which is like, I don't know, paying someone to help you manage your drowning or to pay a plumber to help you manage an explosion. It's like that's not helpful. And so what I want for you is for you to understand why. Why haven't you solved it yet? Why did you go to that therapist? You followed what they said and you still have it. Why did you read the book or download that app or do that meditation or do that therapy or go to that retreat? And yet it's still here. I want you to know why. And it's an important why. And I want you to know why for two reasons. One is when you know why you still have it, then you'll know how to solve it. But also, if you don't know why your anxiety isn't gone, you'll do what I did, which is you start to blame yourself, and you think, well, maybe this is my fault. Maybe I'm broken. And what I want you to know is this is not your fault, and you are not broken. What's broken is really this industry that is trying to help us. They have good people, but the industry is broken, and that's why. And I want you to understand why $1 trillion a year, according to the World Health Organization, is spent on mental health. And according to the data, virtually none of that solves anything. And so I want to tell you the sort of dirty little secret that the mental health community doesn't want you to know, which will explain why you haven't solved it yet, so you don't blame yourself. And then I'm going to show you a perceptual understanding of how to actually solve your anxiety permanently. So no tips, no tools, no band-aids. What I want to share with you now is how to completely upgrade your life so you don't have anxiety anymore, so you can be more joyful, show up for the people you care about, do the things you love, and just live that full, happy life that you deserve to live. That's what I'm about. And I know I come on really strong. I'm an American. We're kind of over the top, but also to me, this is like life and death, because when you have anxiety, you're not fully living, and what I want to share with you can save your life. And so, we're all here to help people, and I get very passionate. So I'm glad you're here listening, and I'm glad I'm going to get to share this information with you.
Well, thanks, Daniel, for that. Now, anxiety. It comes in lots of different forms, obviously. So, what's the main driving force for your anxiety, particularly?
Well, it's a great
did you?
question.
Yeah.
It's a great question, but part of the reason that people aren't solving anxiety is because they've led to believe a certain understanding that has them heavily confused. And one of those beliefs is that there's lots of different types of anxiety. Now, in a bit, I'm going to explain to you there's not lots of different types of anxiety. That's what we're told, but there's one form of anxiety that shows up in multiple different ways. There's one root cause that shows up with multiple symptoms. But if I just tell that to you, your listeners won't know whether I'm trustworthy. How can they trust me? And so I want to tell you where this information comes from, so when your listeners hear it, they can think, okay, this isn't just some person spouting off theories that they can't back up. So again, what we developed, my team, is a way to solve anxiety and get permanent results. And the reason that mattered was because when I was a kid, I grew up in Berkeley, California, and when I was a kid, my dad was a scientist and an inventor, and he used to invent things, and I thought that was the coolest superpower ever. And he said to me, Daniel, if something in this world isn't working, you can just invent something better. You don't have to just tolerate it. And he also said something to me, Tim. He said, theories are great, ideas are great, but the cool thing about science and physics and engineering is, like, results matter. The people who get the results, those are the people who get to claim they know what they're talking about. Results matter. And I love that. And then I went to engineering school at UC Berkeley, and I learned how to solve things to get results, how to take a complex problem and break it down into little engineering pieces, and then build a prototype, and then test it and optimize it until you got something that just worked consistently and got results. And I got really good at it. The problem is they didn't teach me really how to make my life work. Like, I could make robots work and bridges work and bikes work, but nothing about relationships. And which would have been handy, because I fell in love with this woman, and I fell in love, but then the relationship was very unhealthy, and none of Newton's laws or Einstein's equations that I learned helped me in that relationship. So I stayed in way too long, and when I came out of it, I had crippling anxiety and basically complex PTSD. The tiniest thing sent my system into a terror. It was horrible. I couldn't leave the house. Uh, and everybody in my life, my friends and family, didn't want to be around a person in pain, and they basically walked away, leaving me feeling even more broken. And I wouldn't have taken my own life, but I got why people do, because I had no life and nothing had worked. I went to therapists and psychologists and doctors. I spent $100,000 over 10 years, and nothing solved it. And I still had it, and I was losing hope. And so I remembered what my dad said. He said, if something isn't working, invent something better and get results. So to take a stand against this trillion-dollar industry, I started my own research company with the goal to see if we could reverse engineer a permanent solution to anxiety. And it was way harder than I thought. I was a bit naive. It sounded good when I was like, hey, let's solve this. It was not easy. It took 8 years. We worked with 3,000 people all over the world. We spent over $1 million in research and development, but we solved it. Not only did my anxiety and PTSD just go away and never came back. I've been chill as a cucumber for 10 years straight, nothing, and it's just gone. But then more importantly, we systematized it, and we built an online program that anybody can take all over the world. And no matter what type of anxiety you have, no matter how long you've had it, we're solving anxiety in 6 weeks with a 90% success rate. And because my dad said results matter, when we work with people, we don't take your money up front. We measure your anxiety at the beginning, in the middle, and the end, And at the end, when your anxiety is fully solved and we have the data, that's when we charge you. And I'm telling you that because that's incredible and your listeners should know about that. But also so that when you're listening to what I'm about to teach you and you think, Daniel, this sounds great, but how do I know it works? Just know that what you're learning, we back up our results. And if we're backing up our results, we're probably getting some. So that's where this information is coming from. Now, before I go into the information and answer your question, Tim, is there anything you want to ask me on what I just shared?
Yeah, how did you go about it to start with? I mean, you're in a desperate situation yourself. You've looked back at what your dad said, that you need to solve a problem, and to solve it, then you break it down into component parts, etc., etc. So, how did you actually start that process to begin with?
I mean, it's a really good question. Looking back, because I've asked that before, I've asked myself, because what we came up with is so simple, Tim. It's not complicated. And people have asked me, why didn't anybody else figure this out? And I thought, I don't know. So I've looked back sort of and said, how? There's a couple pieces. One is we had a focus to solve it. Most mental health professionals, spiritual teachers, therapists, personal development, if you look at what they're teaching, a lot of it, they've learned something from somewhere else, whether it was a school or another teacher, and it helped manage anxiety, and they think, ooh, that helps, and they pass it on to the people they want to help. And so there's just this symptom management regurgitation. It's just built into the industry, this industry that takes a lot of money, but just manages it. And I call it the improvement industrial complex because it never solves anything. It just takes in money, and the money is in the maintenance. There's no money in a solution. So for many reasons, they're not focused on a solution. So just the fact that we said, forget management, forget tips and tools, let's go for a solution, already we were on a better track to find it because at least we were looking for it. Also, we weren't therapists or doctors. We weren't experts. We were outsiders. And outsiders can sometimes see what the experts can't see. And the reason I thought it was possible is my mom told me about the story of Florence Nightingale, the British nurse in the Crimean War who, saw all these soldiers dying in recovery. More were dying in recovery than in the battlefield. And she basically said, this is a problem. And she went to the experts. She went to the generals and she went to the doctors and said, hey, this is a problem. Can we do something about it? And they basically said, no, just manage it. This is a part of war. If she was an expert, her ego is just going to keep doing what's done. She wasn't an expert. She was just paying attention. And she discovers something incredibly simple that when applied, basically dropped the death rate by 99%. It wasn't complicated. It was simple, but she could see it because she was on the outside. We were outsiders. Because we were outsiders, we could see what the experts didn't want to see or couldn't see. And then the final piece that I think allowed us is I have a talent or a skill. I've learned what it is, and it's called visual thinking. And I've learned certain inventors or innovators have it. Einstein had it. Newton had it. Apparently Elon Musk has it. And what it means is when you go to problem solve, you sort of see images and graphs and charts. Many people have this ability. So what I realized, that talent is very powerful because you can just look at things and sort of say, well, what connects to that? And what goes here and what goes there? And it allows you to see things that people miss. A lot of people learn by saying, okay, I learned this and I learned this, and now what else do I need to learn? They can't see really beyond what they know that much. But when you're a visual thinker, you just see this big map and you can see, oh, I don't know what that is. Let's investigate here. And this is connected to that. So I started to approach anxiety through this visual map that was mechanical. And once we went at it mechanically and systematically, the solution, which I'll tell you about, is a lot simpler than you think. It's very simple. The reason we found it was our approach, which was to be solution-focused, engineering mechanically focused, and to look big picture and look for what we were missing.
So I guess from your perspective of not being one of the experts, but coming from it from a sufferer, trying to find a solution, having gone through years of spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to to try and get a cure for it, and worked out the bigger picture that they don't really want solutions because solutions dries up your funding, your funding stream. So I can relate to that, definitely. So you're looking at it from the big picture. You're piecing it all together to work out a solution to be able to find a permanent fix for people's anxiety. So how did, you got so you've got together with a few friends. How how did you go forward with this thinking? How did you get them to come along with you?
Well, what we did is we just did it systematically and mechanically. And I'll explain to you what we did. I mean, it's a mindset and a strategy. So the first thing we did is we challenged the pre-existing what we're taught. We're taught, anxiety is a problem of the mind. They say, quiet your negative thoughts, don't believe your scary thinking, shift your mindset. They give you pills to target the neurotransmitters in your brain, and it's called mental health. It's got the word mental right in there, Tim. So everyone
Yeah,
thinks primarily it's in the mind. And so they're chasing the mind. I spent a lot of money on trying to solve this at the mind level, but I'm an engineer. So what do? You look at results. Results matter. And I said, is this theory getting results? And I said, modern psychology has had 100 years to figure this out. Infant mortality rate is down. Life expectancy is up. Lots of diseases have been eradicated. Anxiety is getting worse. So just based on results, should we be trusting that theory? And is it an antiquated theory? I was taking a flight at the time, and I saw a guy getting on an airplane with an emotional support animal, a dog. Now, I understood why he was given a dog. I get that a dog can be calming, and I was glad he had that dog. But part of me thought, you know, we have a helicopter on Mars, and this guy's struggling, and the experts say, here's a dog. It's 5,000-year-old technology, and meditation is like 10,000. This is antiquated technology. And a dog? Like, can you imagine if you went to a modern physical hospital and was like, oh, I've got chest pains, and they were like, oh, here's a chinchilla. You'd be like, what are you guys doing? Get on the job. So just based on that, I just was like, to my team, I said, based on results, is it in the mind? And the second we said, is it in the mind, the whole paradigm came crumbling down, and you'll see it. They say it's in the mind, but when you have anxiety, Tim, and your listeners know that, everyone says, I feel anxious. I
yeah.
feel it. Okay, where do you feel it? Well, you'll feel your throat close up, your chest can tighten up, your heart rate can go up, your stomach can get a gross feeling. So they say it's in the mind, but listen to those words: throat, chest, heart, stomach. To your listener and you, Tim, does that sound like the mind to you or the body?
That's a physical thing.
It's a
It's
physical thing.
it's
It's
not
the
a mental
body.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you get the sweats. When you get anxious, you start sweating. Your pulse rate goes up. Yeah, it's a physical thing.
It's a
And it's not what
physical
you're
thing.
thinking. It's not what you're
Yeah.
thinking. It's not thinking that gets you anxious. That's for sure.
Well, you're saying that's for sure. And it is. Once you think, you're like, yeah, it's coming from the body. But it's called mental health. You got to admit there's a little bit of a disconnect there. Now, what's true is the mind is part of it. The mind does
Hmm.
spin and say scary things. And so if you're not paying attention to the engineering, you'd think, well, the mind is saying scary thoughts and then the body feels scared second. But again, if you challenge it, that's not how we are mechanically wired. Look at the mechanics. We're wired such that our body tells us what the body needs, and then the mind is a tool to get the body what it needs. When you're hungry, you don't think it first. You don't say, hey, I have a logical assumption that it's 5 o'clock, and therefore I believe that I would like to eat a piece of steak. And then your stomach says, thank you, mind. I believe I'll growl. No. First, your stomach growls saying, hey, we need food. get us food, and then the mind says, all right, I'll figure it out. Or if you're in the jungle and you hear a sound in the jungle that's scary, you feel it in your body first, fight or flight,
Yeah.
then your mind starts to scan for either an exit or a way to not die. So it's body first, mind second. So what happens is your body, for reasons I'm going to explain to your audience, is already feeling anxious. Then your mind senses there's a problem and then starts spinning, thinking, oh, there's a problem, there's a problem, there's a problem, there's a problem. So the mind is part of it, but the mind is not the root cause. The mind is the symptom. And so they're sending you to the wrong location. They're sending you to the symptom instead of the body, which is the root cause, and that's why you haven't solved it. So to your listeners out there who tried to solve it at the mind level and didn't, you're not broken. You were sent to the wrong location. This isn't your fault. That's why you still have anxiety. Not because you're broken, but they sent you to the wrong place. So you don't have an anxiety problem. You have a location problem. And I'm telling you this because if not, your listeners blame themselves. I had a client come to me about a month ago, and she said, I don't know what's wrong. My mind is going crazy, and I can't shut it up, and I've tried to meditate, and my mind just keeps coming back. What's wrong with me? And I said, well, if you had a tea kettle that was on a flame, and then steam was showing up, I said, what's the root cause and what's the symptom? She said, the flame is the root cause and the steam is the symptom. I said, exactly. And I said, if you tried to stop the steam by like putting a pillow on it or duct taping it, but the steam kept coming, are you bad? Are you stupid? Are you going crazy? She said, no. I said, why? She said, well, you got to go to the root cause. You got to turn off the flame. I said, exactly. I said, you've been trying to stop the steam and you need to turn off the flame. And when you do, the flame goes out and the steam goes with it. And she said, I mean, it sounds good. I don't know if it'll work. And then about 2 weeks into our program, she reached out to me and she said, Daniel, you're right. Not only am I feeling calmer, but my body's calmer and my mind is calmer too. And so we have hundreds of stories like that, data proving that when you focus on the body, not only does the body calm down permanently, but the mind, which is a symptom, goes with it. And that is real freedom.
So how do you go about calming down the body? So your body's going into sort of cold sweats and your heart rate goes up and you're getting sweaty palms, and then your mind starts taking over. How do you calm the body down? How do you go about that?
Well, again, that's the $1 million question. And you're a smart guy. You know a lot about this topic. Your listeners know a lot about this topic. And if you had a bunch of people in a room, you would have all these different theories. Well, it's this, it's hormones, it's hereditary, it's unreleased trauma, it's this. You'd have all these theories, and basically everyone would be very confused. But actually, once you start to approach this from an engineering perspective, it's very simple what's causing it. And I'll explain to you how we got there. So first of all, once we saw it was in the body, then of course we said, okay, why? But the beauty of going to the body is that the body is way easier to understand. If you think it's in the mind, nobody understands the mind. It's still a relative mystery. There's like 87 billion neurons and synapses. They barely know what's going on in there. But the body, it's pretty well mapped out. You got ligaments and arteries and layers and a heart and respiratory. It's pretty simple, and a lot of it is mechanical. And also, there's all these systems. You've got the respiratory system, the capillary system, the endocrine system. Those are systems, Tim, and systems have mechanics to them. And if you're an engineer, a mechanical engineer, you can look at the mechanics and say, okay, it's malfunctioning. How do we repair it? So all we said was, what's the system in the body that's controlling anxiety? And again, once we just asked the right question, it was really obvious. And you already know what it is. I'll ask you. Tim, and to your listeners, when you're anxious, it's basically just feeling extra nervous. You know, you're just very, very nervous. Okay, so if I asked you, what system in the body would most likely make a person extra nervous? The capillary system, the endocrine system, or the nervous system?
The nervous system.
Yeah, you don't need a fancy degree to come up with that. You're feeling extra nervous. There's a system in the body called the nervous system. You don't have to be that smart to figure it out. How they missed this, I don't know. But they did. It would be like if you had a car and the engine blew up and there's all this steam coming out of the engine system, and you know that, and you're like, no, it's a disorder of the tires. It's like, how did they miss this? It's the nervous system. Extra nervous system. So we knew it was in the nervous system. Well, first of all, doesn't that just make sense? Doesn't that just seem kind of obvious?
Yep. I came up with that all by myself.
Yeah. You're a brilliant man. Gold stars to you, Tim, and to your listeners. Yeah. Sometimes people will say, Daniel, how did you figure this out? I'm like, I mean, yeah, we had a good approach. It's not that we're so smart, just everybody else got heavily confused. But now you look back and you think, I'm feeling extra nervous. Yeah, it's probably in the nervous system. It's not that. You don't have to be that smart to figure that out. You have to want to solve it and be an engineer, and then this is pretty obvious. But then the next question is, okay, what's going on in the nervous system such that it's extra nervous? Now, when we approached this, it was very important that we came up with an understanding that made this solvable. Because there's a lot, you can come up with lots of theories why something doesn't work, but not all theories lead to a simple solution. To have a simple solution, you need simple practical steps that somebody can do. If you have a car and it's not running, and you ask a bunch of people, why is my car not running? And one person says, you have a power issue. Well, okay, I mean, maybe that's true, but like, how do you solve that? What practical steps do you awaken the power demons? Like, or if someone says, you have an engine issue. Okay, fine. But still, like, where's the practical, what do I do with that? But if someone says, oh, you're out of gas. That's actually a solvable solution, because you can walk to the gas station, get gas, walk back to the car, put the gas in the car, and then the car starts up. So do you see, not all theories are created equal. And if we want to solve this, we got to come up with a solution that is actually solvable with simple practical steps. You with me?
Absolutely.
But again, we are not taught that. I had a client who came to me before we helped them, and I said, well, what do you think the root cause of your anxiety? She said, my past. And I went, well, okay, yes, your past does affect you, but like, what do you do with that? What do you time travel? What do you Marty McFly? Like, what do you, yes, there's some truth to it, but it's not actionable and simple. How do I know? She'd been working on that for 10 years and she still had anxiety. So how do you create a simple, solvable solution? Well, you look at systems in the body, and they're very simple. And they're relatively easy to solve if you understand the number one reason that systems fail. So if I asked you, Tim, and to your listeners, and again, it's pretty obvious, what's the number one reason that systems in the body tend to malfunction or fail?
You've overused them and you've broken them. that's
well,
underneath
close.
this gorgeous exterior, there's a train wreck going on. But
well, yeah. I mean, yeah, basically. What did you say? You said
it's worn out. You've overused it. It's broken.
So, yes. There's three. One is, as we age, the system does start to wear down. Okay. But there's another one, which is most systems in the body have basics that you need to do every day to just so they maintain themselves. You got to get enough sleep, drink enough water, you got to eat a balanced diet, you got to, there's basics, you have to brush and floss. There's basics you have to do, and if you do the basics for each system, the systems are actually pretty incredible in terms of them running on their own. Your heart is incredibly sophisticated. It just sits in there beating millions of times in a row. You don't have to do anything, but you do have to eat a healthy diet so that your arteries don't clog. If you do the basics, your heart runs pretty well, which is a pretty sweet deal. If you brush and floss, your teeth pretty much take care of themselves. So I asked, well, the nervous system is malfunctioning. Do we take care of our nervous system? Were we ever taught that? Because if we weren't taught how to take care of the nervous system, then we're not taking care of it, and then that would explain why it's malfunctioning. You see how I'm approaching this like an engineer? This isn't sophisticated?
Yeah.
So what we did was we came up with a very early understanding of like, what does the nervous system need every day? What do your feelings and emotions need every day to run properly? And we came up with a bunch of key categories. And then we went to people who had anxiety, myself included, and we saw how well they were taking care of their nervous system every day. And because they didn't know how, it was about 4 out of 10. And what we saw was there was a direct correlation between nervous system care and nervous system performance. What we saw was nobody was taught how to take care of their nervous system, so they weren't taking care of it, and eventually over time their nervous system had crashed. And when systems in the bodies crash, they act very similar. They become fragile. If you don't eat right, your heart isn't strong. And if you go up a flight of stairs, you should be able to handle it, but you can't anymore. You're fragile. If you don't brush and floss, your teeth aren't strong anymore. What are they? Fragile. You bite into a carrot, instead of just feeling the pressure of the carrot, you feel pain. So when you don't take care of a system, fragile, and you feel pain, well, that's anxiety. It's the same profile. You feel fragile, life pushes on you, you can't handle it. Instead of just feeling the pressure of life, you feel this spike, this emotional pain. And it was directly linked to the fact that nobody was taught how to take care of their nervous system, so it crashed, and now it's fragile and has pain. So if you're listening to this, that's what's going on. And I want you to know that so you don't think you're broken. If you don't know this, you see your nervous system malfunctioning, you think, oh, I'm broken, I'm weak, I'm crazy. No. Nobody ever taught you or me or Tim basic daily hygiene of the nervous system. So you didn't know how to take care of it. You knew how to take care of your teeth, but you didn't know how to take care of your nervous system. So eventually, mechanically, it was going to crash. And now that it's crashed, it's fragile. And when life pushes on you, instead of feeling the pressure of life, some stress, you feel this pain, which is anxiety. So you're not broken. This was going to happen to anybody. And actually, think about this. If you don't take care of systems in the body and they release pain, that's actually a good design. It was built into the design to say, hey, if you don't take care of this, we're going to send pain to get your attention to take care of your system. So this pain that you feel, this anxiety, this fragility, you're not broken. There is nothing wrong with you. In fact, there's something beautifully right about you that's functioning perfectly. This pain is getting your attention so that you can learn how to bring it back to health and take care of it. And when you do that, your anxiety goes away. And I know that because people come to me all the time feeling broken and thinking they have a disorder. And just last week, I had a client come to me, and he's a week into the program, and his anxiety's down about 20%. It's not gone yet, but he said, Daniel, I'm already feeling better because I don't feel like I'm broken. This was just a nervous system issue. I wasn't taught how to bring it back to health. You're showing me how. I have hope now. I know this is going to go away, and I know I'm going to be fine. So if you're listening to this, I hope just understanding what's going on may reframe what you're going through so you realize you're not broken. You just have a system that you never learned to take care of.
Wow. So, how do you go about taking care of your nervous system? Because it's never been taught.
It's not been taught.
What's the key to looking after your nervous system? You can look after your heart, your lungs and that by going to the gym and eating well, looking after your teeth, looking after your hair, your body. How do you look after your nervous system?
Well, on the one hand, I understand why you're asking that question. I'm saying the nervous system is in a state of disrepair, and you're saying, how do you take care of it? And built into your question is one of the fundamental misunderstandings of what's going on. And I'll explain what I mean by that. What you just asked is sort of like, what's the thing I can do to take care of it? Because that's sort of what's taught. Tips and tools and awareness. But that will only manage it. What people don't understand is this is a system failure. Your system has crashed. What we're being taught, meditation, avoiding the things that trigger, reframing, that's fine if you have a healthy nervous system and you want to maintain it. For instance, your teeth need brushing and flossing. If your teeth are healthy, all you need to do is brush and floss. It's simple. There's little tips and tools to maintain. But once your system crashes, you can't just put toothpaste in there, can you?
No. You have to go to the dentist to have them all taken out.
Exactly.
Then you get false ones, you can put them in the sugar bowl and watch you make.
What'd you say?
So when you get false teeth, you can take them out, put them in the sugar bowl and watch you make.
Yes. Hopefully, in this metaphor, we can get to you before you're putting your nervous system in the sugar bowl and putting in fake teeth. But yes, the point is, we know that once you need a root canal, you can't just brush and floss anymore. It's too late for that. There's no tip or tool. You can't meditate the pain away. That's fine for maintenance or management, not to repair a crashed system. But this is a whole new way of looking at things because people have spent billions and trillions of dollars thinking, oh, what's the app? What's the meditation? What's the this? And what they don't realize is it's a system failure. And once you have a system failure, you need to approach this completely differently. We know this with the body. If you have eaten poorly your entire life and your arteries are about to shut down and you're having mini heart attacks, you don't go walk up to a doctor while you're having a heart attack and say, hey, doc, any tips and tools you can tell me right now? You're like, no, it is too late. You can eat salad once you're healthy, but right now you get to a hospital and you go to experts who specialize in that system. They go in a specific order. They are trained. They go in a specific order with specific repair tools. They open up the arteries. They put in a stent. They clean it out. They repair. They put you on blood thinners. Then they change your. I mean, it's a whole system that's been innovated and perfected over years from experts who know how to repair that system. So there is nothing I can tell your audience, and I don't want to tell them because that'll just contribute to this whole idea of give me the tip, give me the tool. No, no more tips and tools. I'm telling you what's actually going on. You have a system failure. Now, the downside is you have a crashed system. And if you don't repair that system, you're going to continue to be managing symptoms for the rest of your life. That's just engineering. However, if you don't know that you have a crashed system from not knowing how to take care of it, you're going to blame yourself and you're going to lose hope. Like if you never learned to brush and floss and you didn't know about dentists, you'd have tooth pain your entire life. You'd think you're going crazy. You'd think, God, I bit this carrot. My teeth hurt. Do I have carrot pain disorder? And now I can't eat ice cream. I'm a weak, crazy person. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with ice cream? And you would be running around trying to get apps, learning how to, make you not have tooth pain. You would start to lose hope and you'd start to think, I'm just stuck with this for the rest of your life. But Tim, if that person found out about dentists and they found out there are experts that can repair a system and then they can brush and floss moving forward, how long would it take a person with a lifetime of root canal pain to be free of that pain? How long would it take?
Oh, several treatments.
Yeah, a couple weeks,
Yeah, couple of
couple
months.
visits,
Yeah,
weeks. But possible, simple, doable. Not
absolutely.
mysterious. So, the bad news is this is going on with your nervous system. You were never taught it was a system issue. You were never taught that your system crashed because basic care went missing. So you've been trying to solve it. No one helped you solve it. So you feel like this is hopeless, like you're broken, like you're going to have this for the rest of your life, and like this is a big, complicated problem. But to Tim and your listeners, why is it good news to find out you just have a system that crashed because it wasn't taken care of? Why is that actually good news if you want to solve this?
Because you've got a system where you can fix it. There's
Yeah,
a process you can go through to fix it.
exactly. Not only do we have a
Because
system, but it makes sense that a system exists. There are experts to bring back a heart to full health. There are experts that can bring back an engine to full health. There are experts that can bring back a garden, teeth. So many systems, there are experts that study the system and have the expertise and the steps to bring it back. And so it makes this whole concept seem not too good to be true when you see it through this filter. What do you think about what I'm saying?
well, I think you're starting to make some sense. So how would somebody that's got a broken system, a broken nervous system, get hold of you to be able to get that system fixed?
I mean, the short answer is you come to us.
Are you rolling it out sort of worldwide? Are you rolling it out to other people to help?
I mean, that's what we're doing. You know, the beauty of understanding things through a system approach is that you can systematize things. Now, it took a lot of time and effort and testing and prototyping to get the program so it's simple and everything's online. It's all online right now and it's all been tested to work. It first worked, I was one of the earliest guinea pigs that it worked. Again, my anxiety just vanished. The PTSD just vanished and it's just basically gone. And that was nice, but we didn't figure out how do you now get this online so anybody can do it and you don't need a coach or a therapist to make it expensive. So it's all online. It's 6 weeks and there's 4 phases. But the 3 most important phases, the first phase is you repair the system and you sort of stabilize it. The next phase is that you retrain the system, meaning you sort of get it back into balance so it knows what to do, its original balance. And then the third phase is how to maintain the system. Okay, now that your system is running properly, now what do you need to do 3-4 minutes a day to maintain the system? So repair, retrain, and maintain. And we've mapped out those through phases with very simple steps that you need to follow. And each of the phases has a video that you watch. It's about 90 minutes, pre-recorded. It's me teaching you. Then you watch another video that teaches you the exercise. And then 4 times a day for 5 minutes, you do the exercise as we've laid it out. It's very simple, and it's through the repetition that's getting the results, the permanent results.
Fantastic. So, what's the end goal? Once you've gone through the process, you've got that system back to fully functioning health. What's the cost of getting that done?
You mean the financial cost?
Yeah.
So that's what everybody wants to know. Like, oh, how much? Sounds great, Daniel. How much? I'll tell you what it's worth is it's priceless because I used to not be able to leave my house and things were just in black and white and I had no joy. And now, again, I have a healthy nervous system and I got tons of energy. This is all natural. This is not cocaine. This is like enthusiasm and it's consistent and permanent and it's priceless. And I would say about once or twice a month, a client will reach out and say, thank you. Like, this is worth $1 million. It's worth more than $1 million to be able to be with my kids again, to be a happy person again, to enjoy life again. So it's probably worth more than $1 million. We do not charge $1 million. We probably could, but then we couldn't fulfill our mission to help a lot of people. And so what we've done is we've created different packages with different levels of service and payment plans. So I'm going to give details to your listeners to book a consultation with me. And on the call, if I sense you really want to do this, I don't want money to get in the way of your happiness, and I don't want you spending money you don't have. So if I sense you really want your life back, I promise you we will create a package and a payment plan that literally anybody can afford.
Terrific. So, just finally then, how does somebody get hold of you to be able to get onto fixing this?
Well, Tim, I'm all about simple. My name's Daniel Packard, so you go to danielpackard.com. How simple is that? You go there and you'll see a link to book a consultation with me, a free 20-minute consultation. And that's what you have to do. But only if it's the right fit, because we don't work with everybody and we're not for everybody. Even though everybody logically doesn't want anxiety, not everybody's ready to take action to get rid of it, and I get that. If you've had this your whole life and everything you tried has failed, you start to lose hope and you think it's not possible. And also some people are afraid to let this go, honestly. It's just too much change. So if you just don't believe there's a simple solution out there, and you think this is just too good to be true, don't bother reaching out to us because you're not ready. And I'm sorry that you've been so confused that you don't think it can be simple. Now, if you're skeptical, That's fine. You should be skeptical. Do not just blindly believe me. There's a lot of people out there that say a lot of shiny stuff and it doesn't deliver squat. Don't fully believe me. The best thing you can do is go through the program and collect the data yourself. However, if you've listened to what I've said and shared with Tim and you're like, this over the top American, this guy's making sense. It's like, maybe the reason I haven't solved it is because people sent me to the wrong location trying to help me manage it versus a system to solve it. Like, maybe that's why I haven't solved it. But also, if you think it just makes sense, I'm feeling extra nervous. I've got something called a nervous system. Nobody taught me how to take care of it, so it makes sense it crashed and it's fragile and I've got all this pain, and maybe that's all it is. And that's good news, because in the same way you can solve a lifetime of tooth pain in a couple weeks, maybe in fact you can solve a lifetime of emotional pain in a couple weeks. Like, it makes sense. And since the fact they back up their results and I only pay at the end, it probably means they're getting results. If that makes sense to you and you're open to this, then it makes sense for me to, tell you about the program, which I told you about. It's called Nervous System Reset, because over 6 weeks, you're basically resetting your system back to its original factory settings, kind of like what kids have. Kids are very open-hearted and confident. You very rarely hear a kid at 4 years old say, I really want to go to the park, but I'm really anxious right now. Kids are just so confident, and they are full of life and full of energy. So you get a nervous system like you were a kid, a healthy kid. You're also learning a habit to maintain your nervous system moving forward. So 6 weeks, as I said, there's 4 main phases. Each one's a video and exercises, and it's dead simple. Lots of instructions. We've tested it, and we've tested it such that no matter what kind of anxiety you have, no matter how long you've had it, we're solving anxiety at 90% success rate. And we know that you're getting results because we don't take your money when you start the program, but what we do is we measure your anxiety in a couple key metrics from 1 to 10. So you and we have a baseline scientific measurement of your anxiety. Then as you go through the program, you're measuring and reporting data on your anxiety every single day. So that by the end, numerically that this worked for you. When it worked for you and your anxiety is gone, that's when you pay. And again, it's worth $1 million, but you don't pay that. On the call with me, we can discuss your situation and we'll find a plan that works for you, because if you want to get out of here, we're going to make sure it happens. If you want that, have that call with me, you just go to danielpackard.com and there's a link to book that consultation. So that's the logistics. But what I want to say is, again, please understand, and I know this from being there, like, I know it can feel hopeless. I know it feels like this is complicated and like maybe you're broken and you've got to have this your whole life. And I'm just telling you, please understand, if there's nothing else you've taken from this conversation, listen to what I say and be open to the possibility you're not broken. You were just sent to the wrong location with people who didn't want to really solve it. So of course you didn't solve it, but this isn't your fault. You just were never taught to take care of a system and it crashed. Go to experts. We'll get you up and running so that you can be more joyful. This isn't even about anxiety. This is about having your life back, doing what you love, having focus, motivation, and showing up for the people, not just yourself, but the people you care about that miss you and that you feel guilty that you're anxious all the time. So again, if you just want to keep managing your anxiety for the rest of your life and you think this has to be complicated, we can't help you. There's lots of people who will take your money and just help you manage it. But if you really want this gone, if you're ready, if you just can't live like this anymore, and you realize with this program there's just no risk, you have nothing to lose and everything to gain, and you want that gain, you want to be happier, then please reach out to us and you could start to feel better within the week. You reach out to us at danielpackard.com and book your free consultation with me.
Thank you so much, Daniel. That has been a real eye-opener. And I'll stick all the details down in the description, and hopefully we'll get a lot of people free from anxiety.
Thank you so much for having me, Tim, and thank you to your listeners for listening and trusting me and being open to a new way of doing things. And just no matter what I want to say, I know it's hard and it doesn't have to be, and we're here to help. Thanks for listening.
Brilliant. Well, I'm convinced it's a system like any other system. And if it breaks, you go to the expert to get it fixed. So until the next one, thank you for your time. Thanks for listening. I'll catch you again. TTFN. Ta-ta for now.